Hello, my name is Elias Afmezensif, and I'm a first year business management student. Today I will be presenting a topic on communication skills, team working skills, and presentation skills, which are essential for the academic skills module. And this is an interactive presentation, so feel free to ask me as many questions as you want, and stop me during my presentation to confirm whether you misunderstood some kind of details or whether I've missed out some sort of key information which you need clarification on. So first of all, I'll begin the presentation with presenting the next slide, which is on teamwork skills, and essentially the importance of communication skills. We need communication skills in the business management environment because without them it is impossible to talk to all kinds of different people from different areas, especially when you're meeting someone for the first time. You have no idea what kind of background they're from, and without good communication skills you're unable to create a good friendship between your team member and yourself to achieve a particular goal. So that's essentially the importance of communication skills. And obviously for future down my degree, when I've completed my first modules and stuff like that, communication skills will be vital for job interviews and all kinds of other opportunities to progress in business management. So the types of communication that we can talk about. First of all, verbal communication. Verbal communication is essential because without the meaning of speech, without the use of speech, you cannot basically deliver a particular message to a group of people. Especially if there's language barriers. For example, if I speak English and other cultures don't speak English, that makes verbal communication quite difficult. So you'd have to use other forms of communication, for example, hand and eye gestures. And if you look at this example here, we have an image of a gentleman who is using sign language to communicate with another lady who's selling some sort of food. Basically, he is not using any form of verbal communication. Sign language, he's delivering a message, and therefore they're able to communicate and understand each other. So other kinds of non-verbal communications could be eye contact, although in some situations eye contact can seem as invasive because some cultures are not too happy about perhaps they're saying that it might be on a personal level, especially when you're meeting someone for the first time. Eye contact might not be the best way to communicate with the person, a stranger that you don't know, for example. But overall, types of communication, it is very important to have all those skills that I've just described for this slide. The next slide I'm going to be discussing is Aristotle's idea of the logos, ethos, and pathos. So in those times, Aristotle used to communicate theories and ideas where pathos, meaning appeal to audience's emotions, especially when he was talking to groups of people. He was basically just more of a person who was creating a speech, and there was no feedback given from the audience to the speaker. It was basically more of a message delivering from the speaker to the audience and hoping that there would be an outcome. And from this image, you've got the phrase, those who know do and those who understand teach. So it shows that there was a certain hierarchy in terms of who is supposed to be delivering the orders and who's supposed to be receiving them and following them. But with this, Aristotle basically, his methods of communication was to persuade and build relations with others, but the community that was being persuaded didn't really have a choice, they had to follow his rules. So that's a different kind of method of communication, I guess. But then there's barriers to communication. So in terms of studies at university, some, unfortunately, in many circumstances, there are probably students who would become left out and criticized by other students based on the fact that they didn't appreciate what the students' thoughts and opinions were. But in order to avoid these kind of barriers of communication, the best way to avoid them is to listen to your peers and make sure that you undertake all of the ideas that the peer is trying to deliver, so that you are familiar with what that student has to say. You are not completely judging them and isolating them from the group. And other barriers to communication, always reading your emails. Without emails, you may forget some certain details, especially so there's maybe a communication barrier between the professor and the student. So you have to respond to your emails to know straight away what the professor wants you to do and to deliver. And cultural barriers, some students may not be speaking to the group of audiences or other students because they don't want to lose the idea of face, which is like to show that your personality and stuff. If you lose your face, you're kind of like losing your what's the word? No, like, well, basically your stuff, your university person. So this is an example. I've mentioned everything on the slides. Other presentation skills ideas: if you do not come to your presentation or you are late to your presentation, it may be difficult to deliver kind of knowledge and your presentation to the audience because you've been missing out on the lectures. So it is important to always state your purposes, capture the audience's interest, and especially with images in presentation design, I've used particularly this kind of design, black and white, because it's easy to deliver. It's quite simple, and it's got images, memorable images, to capture the audience's attention. So, more tips on presentation skills: introducing yourself, memorizing your conclusion, maximize the impact of the slides, and already I've talked about hand gestures, verbal communication, and practicing to build your confidence, which is something I struggle with personally. Hence why I practiced in the mirror when I was doing my presentation to do my best, and hopefully my confidence will develop along as I continue my degree. Teamworking skills. Examples of teamworking skills where I used them was probably in my tennis club, for example. I used to train juniors in my local tennis club, and my teamworking skills, I had to work with my coach to deliver a very good warm-up session and then getting into the games and practicing. So, based on this graph, for example, in teamworking skills, first of all, you're forming a team. So, in my example, me, my coach, and the tennis players. Storming, you're putting up ideas. Although, in this situation, storming is all about arguing. So first of all, there may be some conflicts, and you may not be able to pick out a particular warm-up or something for tennis anyway. Who's also tennis, you don't know what the drill is. Norming is when you've practiced the drill and you've come to an agreement. And then performing is when the team settles down and is capable of delivering a good performance. So, yeah. Conflict resolution. It is important to always resolve conflicts and perform well. If, for example, do you have any ideas of where, let me ask a member of the audience, whether you've actually come across like some sort of conflict in the past and you weren't capable of resolving them in a working situation? No? Yes? No idea? Okay. I think basically at this point, conflict resolutions, avoiding gossip, calmly arriving at resolutions, and accurately interpreting people's opinions, being sensitive to people's feelings, and then effectively conveying information is all important, especially in team working skills and communication skills, because without them, you're not capable to actually accomplish a task. Conclusions and recommendations. So finally we have reached the conclusion, and basically everything I've mentioned from this point, communication skills are very important, because without communication skills you're not able to function as a team. Teamwork and skills are very important. Try not to argue with your team members, as you will then have to create, if you argue with team members, you're not capable of functioning as a team and delivering a piece of work. And then finally, for the academic skills module, presentation skills are also very important in presenting your work. I've printed out a selection of handouts as well, if you'd like to take them with you, and I hope that you have enjoyed my presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and if you have any questions, please ask. Okay, thank you.